There was a time when, there still is in the summer, when it was a popular thing to go to Brownsville and to Williamsburg, to the shuls, to say over a word from the Rebbe's Farbrengen. And one time they made an arrangement that an older bacher should go with a younger bacher, like to help the younger bacher, you know, to guide him a little bit. So I went one time with a shul. The shul was on the way to Williamsburg. Today it's no longer a shul over there. It's an apartment house that they built. It was someplace near Willoughby Avenue. And the bacher sat over a sikha, but it seemed like the bacher was all mixed up. And the Rav later straightened it out a little bit, helped him to get through. So I'm just saying this as an introduction. Mordechai just said the Maimah, but he said rush through it. So I just wanted to say the Nakuda, what's the Nakuda of the Maimah in a simple language. The Maimah basically, the Rebbe said it's one of the last Maimorim that the Rebbe said publicly, on the Pasuk V'ata Tzavas B'nai Yisrael. And the Maimah is built on a Maimah from the Frierdiker Rebbe, that the Frierdiker Rebbe said in Russia, in Topfresh Pei Zayin. That was the Purim Cotton, Topfresh Pei Zayin. Purim Cotton means it was, order that time was 2 years, there were 2 orders. So the first order is called Purim Cotton. And there were people that advised the Rebbe not to, it was said in the big shul in Russia, and the Rebbe was wise not to go to say it, because they knew already that there was agents from the government that were really following him, and they looking to cause trouble. But nevertheless, he went, and he said the Maimah there. And lo and behold, a short time after that, that was when he was arrested. This was in order, and he was arrested in Sivan. So means about 4 months later, he was arrested. So the Teichen of the Maimah that the Rebbe said in Russia was on the Pasuk V'Kibla Yehudim, Eisha She'echelu L'Ases. At the end of Megillah Sester, it says that after everything was settled and the wars were won against the enemies, so the Jews accepted that which they began to accept. And the Gemara says, what is it, the Kibla Yehudim? They began to so the Gemara says, Kimu Masha Kibu Kva. They received the Torah long before, and they gave it up. And they didn't fully accept it, because it was under duress, under pressure. Because the Shtei Kofreim HaKegigis, the Eibishter put the mountain above them and threatened them. And over here by Achashverosh, they accepted it. So the Rebbe asks a simple question. It's difficult to understand, how could you say that by Purim, which was many years later, over here suddenly the nation that went out of Mitzrayim was known as one of the greatest nations. They called it Der Deil, one of the learned nations, that they weren't Makabel, and by Achashverosh they were Makabel. So the Rebbe explains, what's the term Raya Mehemna? What does mean Raya Mehemna? We say Moshe Rabbeinu was a Raya Mehemna. So one shot of Raya Mehemna, or the popular title of the words Raya Mehemna, is that he was a faithful shepherd. What does it mean, a faithful shepherd? That he took good care of the animals. And the Rebbe always used to tell the Medrash that there was one time that there was an animal that ran away, and Moshe ran after it, and he realized that the animal was running to look for water to drink, and how Moshe gave him water to drink. So that shows that he was a faithful shepherd. But the Rebbe teaches over here, according to the Zohar, that Raya Mehemna comes from the word Emunah. And Raya Mehemna means he fed the Jews Emunah. That was the India of Moshe Rabbeinu, that he fed the Jews Emunah. So the Rebbe says that there's different levels in Emunah. There's an ordinary level of Emunah, and there's a higher level of Emunah. So he says that the difference between the Yidden by Kabbalah HaTorah to the Me'ach HaShvedish was in the type of Emunah that they had. What was the difference, the type of Emunah? Both the Emunahs were Mitzad Mesiras Nefesh. Over here, Agam in Torah over here the Emunah was because they were forced. The mountain was lifted over them, and it said, if you accept the Torah is good, and if not, you'll be buried here. So it was Mesiras Nefesh, their life was in danger. But that Mesiras Nefesh, the Rebbe said, didn't come from them. It came from an inspiration that Hashem created. Hashem picked up the mountain over them, so he created in them a Mesiras Nefesh. Mashain came by Haman, Achashverosh, the Mesiras Nefesh came from the Yidden themselves. And it wasn't limited, the Rebbe says there's a difference between the Mesiras Nefesh by Chanukah and the Mesiras Nefesh by Purim. The Mesiras Nefesh by Chanukah were mainly the family of Matashol, that they were fighting the Yevonim, but not the fact that there were Yidden amongst the Yidden that were Misyavnim, that they joined with the Greeks, the Hellenists, again. And over here was each and every Jew, Mikotan Bad Gadol, had a level of Mesiras Nefesh, which the Rebbe said that Mesiras Nefesh comes from the highest Gil of the levels of Neshama. There are many different levels in Neshama. I'm not going to go into it. I don't know how to explain it, but it came from the highest level of Neshama. So so the Rebbe talks about the Mesiras Nefesh between Purim and the Rebbe. Actually, the intent of the Rebbe when he spoke in Russia in the Maimah was to awaken in the Yidden an Emunah to fight with Mesiras Nefesh against the Russian government for Torah mitzvahs, the highest level. And the Rebbe teaches, in his Maimah, he teaches that V'ata Tetzaveh doesn't mean you should command, because if it just meant command, it would have said Daber B'nai Yisrael, V'daber Shem Moshe Leimer, and V'yikol Hashem Zayizol. So V'ata Tetzaveh, the Rebbe teaches Tetzaveh is for Russian attach. In other words, you should connect the Klal Yisrael together and connect them together and feed them the Emunah, which you need the Messiah Kostas Amor. And he explains, Kostas means crushed, that the Yidden are crushed, and they're missing the Geula, they're missing the Geula, so they should come have Emunah and have a serious nefesh for Torah and mitzvahs. The Rebbe says an interesting thing also, that it says Kostas Lamor, and it should say Kostas La'or. More means, you have a bulb. So there's the bulb itself, and there's the light that comes from the bulb. More doesn't mean the light that comes from the bulb. More means the bulb itself. So the Rebbe said that goes on Moshe Rabbeinu, that through this, that the Yidden reach such a level of Emunah, they are also elevating Moshe Rabbeinu. So that's how the Rebbe explains it in the Maimah. So the good of the Maimah is the inyan of Mesiras Nefesh for Torah and mitzvahs to the highest degree. So I think it's appropriate to tell a story about Mesiras Nefesh that Yidden had while they were in Russia in the days of the Frierdiker Rebbe. It's a known thing that the Frierdiker Rebbe once called together I think the story is called to get 10 Hasidim, and they made like a covenant, an agreement, that they'll work with him, the Messiah's Nefesh, which really meant, that Chas v'Sholom, who knows what could happen, but they'll do anything that they can to fight the government that is fighting Torah mitzvahs. The whole Indian of the Milchama in Russia was that the Rebbe didn't want to give up one iota from Torah mitzvahs, and they agreed that they will be the soldiers, the supporters of fighting for Torah mitzvahs. So I once heard the following story, and the truth is, I told the story years ago when they built the mikveh on down Empire Boulevard.
Left and Troy.
When they built it, so I told that story, and after I told the story went went viral, went public, and I got a call from Avram Shem Tov, and he asked me, "Where did you hear the story?" So I said, "I heard it from Rabbi Liss. I don't know where he got the story from, but that's what I heard." He says, "The person that you talked about in the story was my father, Ben Shem Tov." I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'm just giving you over information.
Is he one of those?
The story was,
Is he one of those with
What?
Mrs. Nefesh?
What you say?
Was he one of those who gave himself over to Mrs. Nefesh?
Yeah. So the story was that the Rebbe left Russia in 1927. So obviously this story happened before 1927, could be 1920, or the Rebbe became a Rebbe in 1920. And he said after that, the Tafresh Pei, so that was 1920. So sometime between 1920 and 1927. Now, in America, we're accustomed, Baruch Hashem, to have a certain degree of affluence, of Reichkeit. They said, what do I mean Reichkeit? You go into every apartment, there's a bathroom, there's a shower. They have today 2 bathrooms or a private bathroom in every bedroom, and so on and so forth. In Russia, they didn't have this here in the 1920s. But what they had was a public bathhouse. A public bathhouse. And the public bathhouse was a very important institution because Chas v'Sholom, everyone used it and everyone needed it. And you had to be careful, Chas v'Sholom, that no one should bring in any contagious illness that could affect the entire community. So the people were very medayik with the bathhouse, that the bathhouse should be mamash kedasu kedin. And the government was Russia also had like a Department of Health where they would check the bathhouses and to make sure that they're all up to standard. So V'hi there was a city that was distant from Russia, distant from the capital. The capital at that time wasn't Moscow. The capital was Leningrad. Leningrad was the capital, and a person came to the city, and he was dressed nice, just nice. I don't know if he wore a uniform. I don't know. And he had credentials to show that he's a representative from the Department of Health, and he came to say that he came to check the bathhouse. The people took him very serious, and from the headquarters that came from the Department of Health to check the bathhouse. This is something very, very, very urgent. And he came and he looked around everything, and he looked around the plumbing and everything, and he said to the people, he complimented them that the bathhouse is very nice, but he said it doesn't meet the latest code. The Department of Health always changes and adds different details. Like if you had something like they call it in America, grandfathered in. Like if you made it before, so it was covered according to the old standard. But if you're making now something, you have to make it according to the new standard. So he told him that the bathhouse was he found nothing wrong with it, but it's not according to the latest code. And he would recommend that they change things in the bathhouse. And he brought with him a set of plans and gave it to the people in the city that they should make these adjustments, but maybe it'll fit the latest plans. Okay. The people took it serious, and they started working. Took them a period of time till they completed, and then they sent a letter to the Department of Health in Leningrad informing them that they complied with the recommendations of the representative from the Department of Health, and they're ready now for another inspection. When they received this letter over there, they began to look around. The records didn't show that anything that no one from the Department of Health went there. The whole story was very strange. So they sent down a person to the city to check out, and he realized what happened over here. The changes that they made in the bathhouse made it to be a kosher mikveh. That the same bathhouse at the same time could be a kosher mikveh. They realized, this is something like a shtick of work from the Chassidim, from the Babish, so that he ordered that they should destroy it and put it back the way it was before. When they found out about what happened, they asked the Frierdiker Rebbe, was it worth to Mesiras Nefesh to go through all this? Chas v'shalom, if the guy that came there would slip, do something wrong, who knows what would happen to him? So the Rebbe answered that if, thanks to this, one Jewish child was born with Taras HaMishpacha, so it's worth it. My drasha at that time that I said over here years ago when they made that mikveh was that people were complaining, why do we need another mikveh? So I said that if, thanks to this mikveh, there'll be one more person that will observe Taras HaMishpacha, it's worth it. So that's a story about the type of Mesiras Nefesh, the way they work to do Yiddishkeit in Russia in the days of the Rebbe. Okay, Chaim. I always wondered in Chumash. Last week we read Parshas Kairach. Coming week we read Parshas Chukas, and the week after we read Parshas Bolach. In Parshas Bolach, there's some very nice things that Bilam said, and one of the things is Matei B'lecha Yaakov Mishkasacha Yisrael. So I always wondered why a Yid goes to daven to the Eibishter, the first thing he quotes is Bilam. Wouldn't it be nicer to quote Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, something else? But is that the first thing that you could quote? So the way I explain it is that as many people know, when, especially women, when they go to buy some new clothing, so in the department stores, to have a system of returns. That, you know, Sunday you can go and buy a nice, beautiful dress, and then you come and, I don't like it, I'm going to return it. It goes on back and forth, you know, that's the American way of doing business. What happens if the woman bought a dress, and I'm gonna give this one back, I don't like this. And then her friend comes into the house, and the friend says to her, you know, it's a beautiful dress that you bought. So you change your mind, you're not going to return it already. Because you heard someone else said it's a beautiful dress, you know, so Mastama maybe I don't understand, but she knows, and she says it's beautiful, I keep it. A Yid, when he gets up in the morning to daven, coming to shul, sometimes he says to himself, you know, what I could do better if I sleep another hour. What I got to go to shul altogether? Comes along the davening, the siddur, and starts with a statement from Bilam. That Bilam said, "Matay barach Yaakov v'shasar Yisrael." You hear that, Maisa? Who said it? Bilam said it. If Bilam said it, it's a simon that it's something special. I did the right thing that I came to shul. So sometimes when you hear a story or a vote from a goy, you know, it's impressive. So I'm going to tell a story which I told a few years ago. I don't know if everyone heard it, and I don't know if everyone remembers it. I once told it in Empire Stiebel, but I got calls after I told that story. I got calls about the story, and I always say that there's books with stories about the Baal Shem Tov. We used to read Svarim Shivchei Baal Shem Tov, Sipurei Baal Shem Tov, and the Welt Serazei. Or there are stories about the Marami Prague and the Goyim. All story about the whole Nisim that the Goyim did, you know, b'shlichus of the Marami Prague. So the popular saying was that we don't know if it's really true or not, but that it's shaykh to be true is no question. So there's a lot of stories about the Rebbe. People have stories what to tell, or people tell stories what they heard about the Rebbe. If the story is really accurate or not, people have sometimes questions about it. How could it be? And I have a question about it. But the story that I'm going to tell is a story that I know the story, and I know that it's accurate. How do I know the story? Because it has to do with a family member of mine, with my son. And the story is as follows. My son is a businessman. He's Baruch Hashem, Matzliach in his business. He's about tzedakah. He supports Torah, supports Yiddishkeit and everything. But at the time of this story, he was in the nursing home business. Baruch Hashem was in the nursing home business. He and a group of people would buy nursing homes. They would invest in nursing homes. How do they find the nursing homes? Like in every business, if you're looking for something, there's a broker or an agent, and the agent, the broker, knows what this particular person is looking for. So b'meila, you contact them, and you tell them about it, and you try to make a deal. And for Sheikha, the agent will make panosa, and you'll make a deal. Everyone will be happy. So my son once got a call from a broker, and the broker says to him, Tzvi, or in the business they call him Steve, I don't know, the B'Shanis Shem given, but he says to him, Steve, I have a home available, and listen, who are the owners of the home? It's a group of nuns. Group of nuns, you know what a nun is. A nun is in the church. They're women that they dedicated their life. They don't get married, and they daven the whole day supposedly and everything. But this group over here, besides doing all the work that you do in the church, they're also in business, and they have property, and they have a home that they want to sell. Would you be interested in it? He says, why not? I don't care who owns it. I want to see, get the information. He gave me information, and he looked it over, the records and everything, and he called up the broker and told him that he's happy. He's interested to do business. So then the broker told him that these nuns told the broker that when we do business with somebody, we like to know who we're doing business with. So they want to meet you. Okay. So my son went to the place where they have their building over there. They went to meet with them. And there were a group of elderly nuns over there. And the oldest one was the head of the group. And she told him that, tell us a little bit about yourself. We'd like to know who is interested to do business with us. So he told her that he grew up in Brooklyn, in a neighborhood called Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. He studied in the Lubavitch Yeshiva, a yeshiva, a Jewish school, and he's married and he has a family and so on and so forth. So the nun says to him, you mentioned the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn. Tell me, is that where the Rebbe lives? So he says, yeah, the Rebbe lives over there. So she says to him, maybe you can tell us something about the Rebbe. So he says, well, I can tell you the following, that there is a custom in our community that once a year, in honor of your birthday, you can have a private audience, a yechidus with the Rebbe. And this is both for men and for women. That's how the minhag was many, many years ago. The woman would go into the Rebbe separately. So he said, one year my mother went into the Rebbe and said, I don't know everything what they spoke about, but the Rebbe said to her, you're supposed to have another child. So my mother said to the Rebbe, what should I do? But the doctor doesn't recommend it. And the Rebbe said, regardless if the doctor recommends it or not, I think that you should have another child. And he says to her, I'm that child that was born from what the Rebbe told her to have another child. Then he says to her, why are you interested in the Rebbe? What do you know about the Rebbe? So she said, I'll tell you the following story. She said, we have a number of properties in America, and we also have a property in Ireland. And once or twice a year, I go down to Ireland, and over there's a galach. She said a father, but the galach is a father, that he manages the property. And I sit down and, we go over it, to go over the books, to see how it's doing, and he tells us what has to be done, what's needed, and so on and so forth. Okay. This is going on for many years. And one year, I took a trip to Ireland, and I met with the father, and then we sat for a few hours, and then he excused himself that he needs some time for himself. He's only human, So we took a break in our meeting, and there was like a corridor, a hallway over there. So I'm walking in the hallway, and I noticed a door that was a little bit open. And I happened to peek in to the door, and I saw that the galach was sitting with a towel and tefillin. So Now, you ask, how do I know about a talis and tefillin? So she says, when I was a young girl, I lived in the Bronx. That time, East Bronx was full with Yidden. And I had a lot of Jewish friends. And my friends would invite me to their bar mitzvahs, to their bas mitzvahs, to their parties. And I knew all the things. And she says also, I was the Shabbos guy. For the friend's family, if they need something on Shabbos, I was the Shabbos guy. So I knew about all these things, and I knew what the tefillin is, and I knew all these things. She says, I couldn't believe what I saw. I was shocked when I saw it. So I waited till he came back to the meeting. And in the course of the meeting, I said to him, Father, I saw something very strange that you were doing. And I happen to know what the significance is. What's happening? Wie stimmt es, what's going on over here? So he says to her that recently I'm having dreams. And in the dreams, a man comes to me and tells me, you are a Jew and you don't belong here. And I had it a few times, these dreams. And I looked into it, and I did research, and I found out that when I was young, so the war went on, and my parents there was some Goyish family that took me into their home, and they raised me, and I ended up going to their school, and I became a galach and everything. And these dreams are bothering me. A strange dream, but they're bothering me. He says, till one time, there was a certain event. Now, you may remember there was an event, I forgot what it was called, but on Hanukkah.
Hanukkah Live.
Hanukkah Live, where they connected all over, from all different countries. The Rebbe was standing in his place in 770, and there was a screen in front of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe was able to see lighting the candles in France, and lighting the candles in Italy, and lighting the candles in Eretz. And he says, that man that was standing there, that's the man that comes to me in my dreams. And she told him, he told her, I'm beginning to realize that there is something to it, and I'm considering to give up the priesthood and to move to Israel. I say to Chelsea a story. So she said to herself, she told my son, I said to myself, I'd like to meet that man. I'd like to meet that man. So I did some research, and I found out that there was a time when he used to meet people privately. But the last few years, he's not meeting people privately anymore. But if you want to meet him, you can come Sunday and get from him $1 for charity. And some people talk to him or what. So I decided that I'm going to go to the Sunday place over there and meet the Rebbe. So my son says to her, did you go with this clothing? They wear their levushim, She says, no. I'm not that foolish. I put on a regular dress and a hat and everything, And I went Sunday. It was a long line. I stood on the line. And finally, it comes my next, and I'm in front of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe gives me $1. As I'm walking away into the Gan Eden town, as I'm walking away, the Rebbe calls me back and says, here's $1 for Ireland. Here's $1 for Ireland. So she said, I realized he must be a holy man.
Does he get the property?
Huh?
Does he get the property?
Yeah?
Yeah, this is a side business. This is
Well, this is really coming. Did he get the property in Ireland too?
No.
יש לך כאן בר מצווה, מה קורה לך?